have a story to tell, a message to get out to the world? Do you need to gain exposure and put dollars in your pocket? Then it's time to create something amazing.
Yo, it's Sneller, creative master of unique marketing materials and super cool custom promotional packaging. Been a few months. It's time for Create Something Amazing, the podcast, Season 5, Episode 4. So let's get started. So as you know from our previous episodes, we're still back in about 2006, so I got some work to do to bring you up to current day. And man, we got so many really amazing things to talk about that I'm doing now, which we'll probably talk about 5 years from now. But let's talk about back in 2006, still the binder man, the binder king. I was doing it all, man. One of my biggest customers of all time, parents as teachers. I probably talked about them before. I actually got that customer on a cold call. So that's how old-fashioned this thing was, man, because nobody really does that anymore. But back in the early, actually 1999, if you will, I had left my previous career as a manufacturer's rep and joined a local business here. And they gave me no customers, which is fine. I said, I don't want them. I'm such a good salesperson that I've got no problem stirring the pot and generating my entire new book of business. I brought some with me. But anyway, what I did was I just got in the car and started driving around, and I went to industrial parks, parked the car, and just started walking door to door to big buildings and dropped off my business cards, some literature, and I didn't get a great reaction to that. Maybe 5 or 10 people called, but one of the biggest customers of my life did call, parents as teachers, and they said, "Boy, your timing's perfect. Yeah, we're in the market for," at that point in time, I don't even remember what the first order was, because it started off, I think maybe even with promotional products, probably Post-it notes or a coffee mug or something like that, and I wound up doing their promotional products, their logo wear, their gifts. I mean, I can remember doing some clocks and all kinds of interesting little orders. A lot of printing, growth charts, and things printed on paper. But eventually, I talked them into making ring binders, because their Parents as Teachers is a training program to help young parents, basically, give them tips and advice on how to be a better parent. So these parent educators come into your home, and it's all volunteer, of course, but they'll come and meet with parents. We used them too when my wife and I had young kids at home. So anyway, they have these manuals, and there's a lot of printed paper back in the day. So what do you put lots of printed paper into is a ring binder. So, and I think they might have had, in fact, I know that it had some really ugly, boring vinyl binders with where you print the sheets and you insert them under clear vinyl. And I do those too, but I mean, only against my will when somebody's looking for the rock bottom price on something, which is not really Sneller's thing. So anyway, I said, those binders are fine, but there's a lot of issues with vinyl binders. They crack, they're not durable, they look ugly. They were doing them themselves. And so anyway, one by one, and they had a bunch of binders that they used. One by one, I upgraded them into these beautiful handmade, or what we call turned edge binders. And not only we start off with making them beautiful and way more durable. A turned edge binder will last forever. Literally, it's almost indestructible compared to the vinyl binders. So beautiful, printed in full color, but then I upgraded them with rounded spines, a magnetic flap closure, and we started off with Velcro, then we switched to an exposed magnet, then we switched to a concealed magnetic flap, and based on the price point that they were trying to achieve, each different manual was done differently, so not all of them had this curved spine, but the one that I'm going to show on Vimeo and YouTube and on my social media, it was called the Simpag binder, and it did have the magnetic flap. Just a beautiful, beautiful piece for parents and teachers, and so rewarding. While I do much less for them now, and certainly way fewer ring binders, it's so rewarding that this whole program, and we're talking millions of dollars, came from a cold call, me dropping off literature door to door. And moving on to another one of my older projects back from 2006, and this just sounds shocking to even say out loud, but this is a video cassette box, VHS, for those of you that remember those. And again, what's relevant about this is it doesn't matter if my packaging holds a VHS, which then morphed into CDs, and then DVDs, and then flash drives. Now, QR codes, so there's no physical media, but it drives you to websites, and before that it was personalized URLs. You've heard me talk about all that before, but this piece is too pretty not to show. Again, check out my social media, Vimeo, YouTube. So this was for Purina Mills Equine Research Facility for the Health of the Horse. Just a beautiful cavity box. A cavity box is a printed paperboard piece with a fold-over flap. This one had Velcro, had a pocket on the inside lid to hold literature. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous piece. And so again, think about our packaging and printing capabilities, and then think about what you're doing now, which nowadays it's lots of merch and swag and unboxing kits and influencer kits, but it all started with stuff like the old VHS box. Nobody does it better than Sneller. Check us out. And going back to things that are indestructible, I did another really pretty piece for the soybean. We're almost done with soybeans, but we got another piece that I did here out of indestructible, so truly indestructible polyethylene plastic, and that is really where I started my career. I know we've talked about that before. Back in 1986 through 1997-ish, I did a lot of work with polyethylene plastic. It is literally indestructible. You can flex a hinge, a working hinge, or a score on a folder, for example, thousands and like hundreds of thousands of times before there's any wear and tear to polyethylene plastic. So, but poly's not right for everything because it's kind of cold, it's kind of slippery, but it is indestructible. And if you're in kind of an industrial environment, dirty hands, grease, lots of times out in fields like with soybeans, or in a factory where stuff is just it literally has to last forever, then polyethylene is the right choice. And we did a beautiful printed 4-color process printed polyethylene folder for the soybean industry. It's a tote, fold over panel, welded inside pocket, elastic bands that hold the thing together, and then printed 4-color process. And then it also had a die cut window, so as you opened up the front flap, the die cut window revealed an image of a farmer looking at his soybeans on the inside. And then we also did 4-color process printed paperboard index tabs that indexed the contents inside of this polyethylene folder. So again, beautiful piece. It's old. It's not necessarily something that we do now, but it's too pretty not to show, so check us out. And now, drum roll please, you won't believe it, we're moving up to 2007 with our next case study, which is a beautiful ring binder and slipcase set that I did for Microsoft Office. And this goes back to Windows Vista, so again, we're dating ourselves, but talk about pretty. This 4-color process, offset printed, litho labeled, turned edge, binder and box set. So how about that for buzzwords? Anyway, you're just going to see it as a full color piece, and it's gorgeous. So ring binder goes into a slipcase. A slipcase is just an open-sided box that holds the binder, helps them stand up on a shelf, and just presents them nicely. Also makes it easier to carry around. Gorgeous piece that I did for a local advertising agency here in St. Louis for Microsoft. I wound up doing a bunch of cool things for Microsoft Office and Microsoft in general, including wooden desk boxes, like gift sets that held, a gift to high-end executives, as well as these gorgeous binders and boxes. Man, check us out. We're going to go fast because I got one more thing to talk about. And our last case study is also a project that I did for a local public relations firm here in St. Louis that really specialized over the years in annual reports. Again, something that's probably not printed a lot anymore on paper. It's all done online, but back in the day, they made an incredible living printing these amazing annual reports. And they came to me for this really beautiful binder and index tab set for Dare to keep kids off drugs. Gorgeous binder. This one had all the bells and whistles, a true Sneller invention. It had a rounded spine, a rounded other side of the binder, curved flap that then affixed to the inside front flap with Velcro. This was a turned edge, handmade 4-color process offset printed binder. On the inside, we used a special vinyl material. We had 2 little dots on the inside front flap that held CDs, and then it also had matching 4-color process printed index tab dividers with a custom tab extension, printed front and back, gloss film laminated for durability. Really one of the absolute most beautiful and favorite projects that I've ever done for Dare and a local agency / public relations firm here in St. Louis. And I've got so many more things to talk about. We did at least make it up to 2007, but hey, you want to check out my new stuff? Check me out at snellercreative.com, Jeff at snellercreative.com. I'm on all social media platforms. Money never sleeps, pal.
If it's time for you to create something amazing for your business, go to snellercreative.com. Thank you for listening to Create Something Amazing, a Sneller Creative podcast.